Acts chapter 16. During the night, Paul had a vision. There stood a man of Macedonia pleading with him and saying, "Come over to Macedonia and help us." When he had seen this vision, he immediately tried to cross over to Macedonia, being convinced that God had called him to proclaim the good news to them. And while the vision that I received wasn't during the night, it was a bright August morning in Bishop Larry's office, and he wasn't sending me to Macedonia, but to Calgary, which kind of felt like the same thing. But he did send me to proclaim good news. And I think that's what has been a focal point of my ministry with you so far. I spent the first year of my 2-year contract as interim pastor getting the lay of the land and just learning where the bathrooms are. And this past year, I've seen quite a few changes here at First. Worship at First Lutheran Church was a change for me, because since I was used to the traditional Lutheran liturgical format, the informal worship structure was, so I would say, a little bit jarring. But with Pete's help and the worship team's help, I was able to adjust. Also, the executive responsibilities of my job description were somewhat new to me as well. But with the help of our exemplary staff, Liz, Kelly, Pete, and now Jessica, I was able to adjust to that new environment. So I'd like to thank the staff for their warm welcome and support as they helped me start this ministry strong. First Lutheran Church has a hard-working and dedicated staff, and their commitment to the life and ministry of the church is energizing and inspiring. You guys rock. So let's thank the staff. I would also like to thank all the volunteers who make ministry here at First Lutheran run so smoothly. We have a large army of dedicated servants who work both in front of the congregation and behind the scenes to ensure that the work of the church is done with joy and excellence. And likewise, I'd like to thank you, the faithful of First Lutheran, for receiving me as your interim pastor and entrusting me with the care, stewardship, and transition in your ministry time. And you can look at my written report for the highlights of the past year, but right now I'd like to reflect on where I see God taking our congregation over the next year. If last year was about settling in, then I think next year will be about sending out. I see 2015, 2016, this year be a year of mission, where we engage the community in tangible ways. Mission was one area identified by both the church council and Bishop Larry as needing growth here at First Lutheran. Reaching out beyond our walls will be a priority for us as a church in the coming year. And one specific area I'd like to highlight is Mayor Nenshie's 3 Things for Calgary initiative. Last spring, I met with a staff member of the mayor's office who suggested one area of opportunity that we can get involved in is his 3 Things for Calgary initiative to help us further our reach into the community. So upon my recommendation, Church Council approved our involvement. And today I can announce that Mayor Nenshie has confirmed that he will come to First Lutheran Church to speak to us about this initiative next Sunday, October the 25th. I know it's Confirmation Sunday. He's looking forward to hearing the faith statements, and we're looking forward to having him here. So that's next Sunday. Mayor Nahid Nenshie will come to us to speak about our involvement in the 3 Things for Calgary initiative. And I've already been approached by a partner organization for one thing we can do for Calgary, which I'll share after the details have been worked out. But this is an exciting opportunity to fill a gaping need in the community. And later on, I'll be asking you for your ideas how we can get involved more into the community. After Mayor Nenshie speaks, and after you get a clearer sense of what we're doing, I will be asking for your input and how we can serve our community beyond our walls and make a real and tangible impact in our neighborhoods and beyond. But mission isn't only just one ministry area we're going to look at, because mission doesn't act in isolation. Last summer, we had a strategic planning process with our council, staff, and some of the call committee. And this is somewhat what we came up with. So our first slide. This is just brush strokes. This is an ongoing process, but the 3 strategic areas we came up with was, number 1, relationships, where we saw community building within the congregation, community building within the neighborhood and the city, and the greater use of the building for community groups. And number 2, missional activities and opportunities, which means greater, wider community engagement, greater use of the building for community groups, I'll get into that in a second, and creating partnerships within the wider community for a common mission. And growth puts it all together. We see growth in faith, growth in programming, participation, worship attendance, and of course, budget. And I don't see these three things working in isolation from each other. They all work together in the next slide. So growth, missional activities, relationships, this all works in a cycle. So when we think about one area we're going to be looking at to grow or to improve on or to expand upon, they'll always take other areas in consideration. And of course, as I mentioned, these are broad brushstrokes. In the coming months, we'll be fleshing this out to gain a greater sense of where the congregation is going. So that when you are ready to receive permanent full-time pastoral leadership, you'll have a greater sense of the person's skills, gifts, talents, background, and expectations that you'll be looking for. But we still have a lot of work to do together. But it's exciting work. And it's God's work. It's the work of discernment and experimentation. It's the work of prayer and risk-taking. It's about action-taking and opportunity. And God has put you here to do this work. God has put you here at this moment and in this place because you know how to seize the opportunities that God has put in front of you. Because behind you, you can look back at the victories born from challenge. And in front of you, you can see greater, grander frontiers of possibility. As the church makes its way into an unknown future, we can move into a mysterious tomorrow, trusting that we have the strength, the creativity, wisdom, courage, and confidence to meet the days and years ahead with faithfulness and victory, celebrating the triumphs that come from serving the God that makes all things new. Because our faith can be summed up this way. Our call is summed up this way. You are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's own people, in order that you may proclaim the mighty acts of him who called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Once you have not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. So we have one more year together. Let's see what we can do with it. Let's see what God will do through us as we make our faith matter in ways that impact the community, build strong relationships among this church family, and further grow into the church that God has called us to be. Amen.